Do you want to know how to prepare your childcare business for the slower months? If you do, keep watching. Hey there, welcome back for another video. My name is Rizakos, and I help new, aspiring, and struggling childcare business owners with all things policies, day-to-day operations, as well as marketing. And in today's video, we're going to talk about how to prepare for the slower months like a boss. So, the first thing I want you to think about is starting an emergency fund. Now, this is a fund that is reserved only for those tough times when you know it's either this or you're gonna be out of business. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that's how I want you to think about this. Because if you don't, what's gonna happen is you're gonna start dipping into it and buying, some books for the kids or investing in a slide for the yard. And when you really need that money from your emergency fund, well, guess what? So think about that. How fast can you start an emergency fund? If you're just starting out, awesome. You should definitely start it right now. But if you've been in business for a while, then start thinking about going to the bank and kind of setting it and forgetting it so that you know that in case of a rainy day, you are backed up and you're good to go. How amazing would that feel, right? Second thing I want you to start thinking about when it comes to slower months. Usually the slower months come, from my experience of running my center for 16 years, they usually came, in the same months every single year. So for us, it was usually the months of June, July, August, where I found that clients would kind of drop off. I found that sales were much more lower. And it was also the months where most people were on vacation as well. So it was a really big obstacle for us to kind of be able to generate income consistently throughout the months. And we really had to get creative. So for you, it might be other months throughout the year, right? Depending on where you're watching this from, you might close in the summer times. You might have a difficult time signing up kids in January, right? I want you to sit at your desk and really just take your calendar out and go back in your financials at least 12 to 14 months and think to yourself, when were the slower months? Because most probably it's the same months that you're feeling this pinch every single year, right? It might be in the summer, it might be the winter time, whatever the case, just make sure you're aware of the months where things are slower. If you know, for example, that in the month of July, instead of having 50 kids in your center, in your program, there's like 20, well, start playing around with your numbers. Ask your staff, does anyone want to take some time off? Does anyone want to take their vacation time maybe, right? And really just make sure that you are putting together a temporary schedule that's going to help you with your monthly expenses, okay? The other thing you can do as well is pass out a letter and ask your customers. Give them a letter with a calendar and ask them to mark off the days that they're going to be absent. Because most of the time, parents know in advance when their vacation is, right? So they know, let's say in August, the first 2 weeks of August, every year we have our holiday, little Jimmy doesn't come to daycare, so that's when he's going to be absent. But what that's going to do, it's going to allow you to schedule your staff, maybe cut some hours, maybe encourage your staff to take their vacation early. It's going to help you tweak your expenses when it comes to food, when it comes to, for example, janitorial services, inventory, toilet paper. I mean, you name it, you can tweak everything, but if you have the data in advance, right? So this can be as easy as just sending out a letter or an email with a calendar and just asking the parents, what days are you planning on keeping your child home for the winter holiday or for spring break or for vacations in the summertime, and ask them to hand this back to you. So then once you have this, you have a better picture as to what your sales are going to look like or what the routine is going to look like right in the slower months. And then again, once you know this information, once you have this data, then it's time for you to go to work and really start thinking about your expenses, right? Cut things that you don't need to be paying into. So every single month, for example, if you have a water service that comes in and kind of refills your water bottles, and you're paying them, let's say $200 a month, well, maybe those 2 months, you could cut down if you know that you're only going to have 10 kids versus 50, right? You're not going to need like 10 or 20 water bottles when you have like 10 kids in the center, right? So these are things that you have to start thinking about beforehand. Other things that you can definitely start thinking of minimizing is anything that has to do with toiletries, toilet paper, soap for the hands. If you know that consistently, let's say when you're at max capacity, you spend X amount of money on soap refills or toilet paper refills, and you know that in the summer you're only going to have 10 kids out of the 50 showing up, well, start thinking about tweaking those orders ahead of time, so that you're not ordering more than you need. And you can definitely do the same thing with your meal plan. For us in the summertime, when we knew that we were not in the office at all, and my staff was mostly on vacation, and we had replacements coming in and students that would come in and help out, I knew that first of all, the groups were mixed, right? So there was not, like, say, 4 groups running. We had maybe 3 or 2 staff that was there that wanted to, could maybe clean up classes, or they could organize, the storage room or the craft room. And then when they were done, they could go home, Another thing that you can definitely tweak in the slower months is your menu. Now, I know that you want to be serving quality food that is healthy, to the kids in your care. But what happens in those months when you have, let's say, instead of having 34 kids, you have 15 that come for a month or 2? Well, you have to get creative with your meal planning. Now, I'm not saying to serve junk or processed meals. I'm saying that there are options out there that do not have to cost you the same amount of money, that are also healthy and quick to serve up to the classes, right? So I'll give you a quick example. I knew in the months of July and August that instead of having 34 full-time kids, we would have 50, okay? I had passed out a letter. The parents had confirmed that, yes, we're going to be on vacation, or I'm keeping them home for the summer. So I knew that those weeks we were only going to have 15 kids. So I adjusted the menu accordingly. I didn't have to order thousands of dollars of food when I was feeding half of the amount of children, okay? So I tweaked things as much as I could to minimize the kitchen helper being in the kitchen, right? So she didn't have to do, let's say, an 8-hour schedule. She was good doing 5 hours a week, 5 hours a day. And then I would also tweak what they ate, right? So instead of, let's say, for example, having cooked meals 3 to 4 times a week, I would, let's say, for example, do a sandwiches with, tuna, or choice of tuna or egg salad, and veggies on the side, right? So these are things that you can definitely do, not decreasing the quality of your meals, but really just tweaking them and offering cheaper versions of them, so that you are not paying in groceries as much as you would in the months when your center is packed. Another thing you can also do in the slower months that we started doing towards the end is having a list of replacement kids. Now, sometimes I would have parents call me and say, okay, I'm looking for daycare, but I don't want my child to be in daycare full time. I'm a stay-at-home parent, but I just want them to socialize. So I'm looking for once a week or twice a week. And obviously when we were full, I said, no, we can't do that, right? We give priority to full-timers. But in the slower months, why not place an ad in your local paper, or maybe post about it on your social media, and just throw this idea out there. If you know that you're going to have 15 kids that are not showing up in your program, well, why not have a list of replacement children, right? Parents that just want the occasional care, that don't want to commit to like a yearly contract, that just want their kids to kind of socialize with other children, here and there. You can definitely use this to your advantage by posting about it, or by placing a very simple Facebook ad, and really just growing a replacement list, so that in the slower months you have a list of children that would want to come in and pay you for that day, and just be around the other children, right? The downfall of that is that if you do this with really younger children, kind of integrating them in a group that's already been integrated, is really stressful for the teacher. So I would strongly suggest you do this for kids that are 3 years and up, because most of the time, they don't have a hard time integrating in preschool or in a new daycare center. And the third way you can boost sales or your cash flow in the slower months is really getting creative, you guys, okay? Creativity and hustle, 2 things together. So when you know that, a few months out of the year are really difficult for you financially, there are things you can do to add more dollars to your bottom line, okay? Why not hold a fundraiser? Had to take part of a fundraiser at some part in our life. Maybe it's kids in your neighborhood, maybe it's your own kids. I know for myself, every year at my kids' elementary school, we had to sell chocolate for the school, right? Sometimes we sold jewelry, Tupperwares. I mean, we've sold a few things, but this is a fun way for you to kind of get some more cash flow in your business, especially in the slower months. So why not hold a fundraiser. You can do a corn roast, you can do a barbecue, you can do a fair, you can do an arts and crafts fair. You can get creative with this. Think about something that you can offer in exchange of people's donations that could be fun and easy to set up, and that won't cost you a lot of money. Why not rent out one of your classrooms in the weekend? And I talk about this a lot because I think that this is one of the easiest way for you to get more cash flow in your business that doesn't necessarily involve you doing extra work, right? So why not offer your daycare or your classrooms in the weekend to professionals that are, let's say, our yoga teachers for mommy and me classes, or a speech therapist that doesn't necessarily have a space to work in with her kids, right? There's a lot of people out there in your community that haven't really committed to a monthly lease or a yearly lease, but they're always looking for areas they can actually help their clients or work with their clients. So why not offer your center? It could be a meetup group. It could be a mommy group that can meet up in your center in the weekends and they can pay you a fixed price. It could be a speech therapist, a yoga teacher, a Zumba teacher. I mean, there's so many people out there that offer amazing things for families in your community. And you can definitely do some research, maybe join some private Facebook groups, local Facebook groups where parents hang out, or other business owners in your community, and just throw it out there, throw the idea out there. There's one thing that you can control is taking the proper steps or implementing the right strategies so that you're not stuck with a month, for example, where you get a huge dunk in sales and you don't know how you're gonna catch up, or how you're gonna make up the difference to pay your rent, to pay your staff, to cover your overhead. So as a business owner, you have to make sure that you are kind of ahead of the game and that you're taking the proper steps from day one, and that you're setting yourself up for success. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you did. And if you enjoyed this video, you're also going to love this one.